Hello, today is Thursday, probably the 25th of October 2018, I think, and I am in Oregon in Crater Lake National Park, and I have just ascended to the summit of Garfield Peak, and this here is Crater Lake. So Crater Lake has a really interesting geological story. So about 7,700 years ago, this used to be, so where the lake is now, this used to be a volcano that was about yet another 1,000 meters higher than the point where I am now. And it was called Manzano Mountain or Manzano Volcano. And about 7,700 years ago it started erupting, and it erupted for 2 weeks. And underneath the volcano there used to be a gigantic lava chamber. And the eruption was unusually violent. And because of the violence of the eruption, something like 50 cubic kilometers of stone got expulsed from the crater, and this hollowed out the mountain on the inside. And because the mountain was so hollow on the inside, basically the mountain collapsed in the cave where the lava used to be. And the actual tip of the mountain is now 600 meters almost below the surface of this lake. And this would have been completely barren, it would have been like moonscape. And then over the next 7 millennia, the snow, the water that accumulated from the snowmelt every year slowly filled up the crater and created this lake. There are no rivers flowing into the lake and no rivers flowing out of the lake. But because we're close to the shores of the Pacific Ocean, this area gets a lot of precipitation, and it gets something like 12 meters of snow each year, and all that snow in summer it melts and then it fills up the lake. And because there's no water flowing into the lake, there's no mud or any sort of pollution, so the water is basically pristine. And because of this, it has this blue, deep blue color. It looks almost like ink, and you can't see it very well today because it's a bit cloudy, but if it were sunny it would be extremely deep blue. And temperature, so as you can see the weather is a bit overcast. Temperature is manageable, it's about 3 degrees Celsius. It's quite dry right now, but you can definitely feel the winter coming in. And I just wanted to show you, in that direction lies Mount Lyell, which is one of the highest peaks in Oregon. There, see? That one is Mount Lyell. I don't know which one that one is. But, okay. So the wind's starting to bite into my clothes. So I'm gonna head down. I'm about 6 kilometers from the road. But I wanted to come here in 2015, I think, and I had to turn back the last moment, and I felt really sad that I couldn't get to Crater Lake, so now I feel very vindicated. The air is quite thin because we're fairly high, even though the trail is not a hard one. It's almost like a road, like a dirt road, well, like a path. So we're a bit further down from the peak now, and the wind isn't so strong, so I can relax a little bit longer and tell you more stories. So that formation right there is called, I think it's called the Phantom Ship or the Ghost Ship. And this is the inner wall of the volcano. This used to be all, this is basically the side of the mountain, and this is just a hole in the mountain. So when this volcano erupted 7,700 years ago, the local Klamath tribe of Native Americans, they saw it, and it was recorded in their folklore. So I find it quite interesting that the local tribe that lives here, they have seen the mountain since, they have seen this landscape since before this lake even ever existed. So the way it used to be with the mountain, and it used to be very similar to Mount Shasta, I think. So a pretty high glaciated volcano. And you may have seen an island in the middle of the lake there. That's called Wizard Island. So that island formed after the lake started filling in from the snow, and it is basically, this is going to be the next volcano. So the previous volcano took about 500,000 years to grow, so 500,000 years, and it erupted in a week and it collapsed in 2 hours. And this is the new volcano, so maybe in 500,000 years this will this cinder cone will raise high enough that it will empty out the lake and take over the mountain altogether. If you take rocks from Wizard Island, from the cinder cone, then you will notice that they are very high in metal content. So that is a clue that the plume is being formed by lava that flows up through a crack in the mantle somewhere underneath the lake. There's still like there's still active an active hotspot underneath us, so probably there should be hot springs in the vicinity somewhere as well, because wherever there's volcanic activity there's hot springs. And there is another cinder cone somewhere submerged in the lake. You cannot see it, but it's there. It's almost like a perfect cone somewhere in that area of the lake. So who knows, maybe in a few thousand years it will have grown enough that it emerges from the water as well. Another interesting thing about so there's this endemic species of underwater moss that grows here, and it blankets the entire bottom of the lake down to 400 meters, I think, which is 100 meters, which is amazing because sunlight typically does not penetrate that deep into water. So this is the deepest lake in the United States. Another record that the lake sets is that it's also one of the clearest lakes in the world. And I think in 1995 or 1997 it set the world record for visibility, with a submerged disc being visible 44 meters below the water surface. So just imagine how clear it is. It's much cleaner than tap water that you can get in any municipal tap, or even bottled water. So I didn't expect Oregon to be as beautiful before I came up here. I mean, everybody knows about California, but because Oregon is a little bit out of the way of the international tourism, let's say, loop, it's maybe not so well known because everybody flies to LA or Las Vegas or San Francisco, and then they visit Death Valley or Yosemite or Kings Canyon or Joshua Tree or those national parks from there. And it feels culturally very different. I mean, Oregon and Northern California feel culturally very, very different from like Silicon Valley or the Bay Area or LA, of course. Much more rural and a lot more appreciation for the outdoors, I think, and a lot less pretentious. So it's an interesting cultural shift. Okay. So I'm gonna stop filming here so that I leave some room on the cart, and see you later. So now it's a bit later in the day. I am at the top of Mount Scott. That is the cabin at the top of Mount Scott. It's 2,700 something meters, and that is the valley west of Crater Lake National Park. You can see it's all forested as far as the eye can see, and that's where the lake is, looking towards east. The wind is just lashing up here because it's the highest point in the park. But otherwise, the temperatures are quite comfortable down in the valley. So, it's making me super cold. One thing that's pretty cool to observe this high is how fast the clouds go.